James Gunn is taking a heck of a risk with DC, perhaps putting billions and billions of dollars in the future of Warner Brothers at the edge. How so? He's taking a boy brand that's made to go on backpacks, lunchboxes, and action figures and turning it into a hard R debauchery love fest where everybody's invited. That's what's going on in Peacemaker Season 2. Today we'll tell you why it's not like Deadpool and Wolverine. It's a major risk for the future of James Gunn. Hello, folks, and welcome back. Happy Saturday. It's the middle of the day, and we hope you're having a wonderful weekend. Folks, it's time to dive in. Click the like button. We're going to hand it over to Lauren to walk us through the beginning of this story, but it's got people like Nerdrotic, Gary over there, and Jonas, too, both agreeing this goes too far for a brand made for kids.
This is TV Guide's take, and they have a much different take on this than you do, Marvin, as you might imagine. So I'll go through this really quick. Yeah. Peacemaker Season 2 review. James Gunn's colorful superhero, boy is that an understatement, series is reborn in a new DC universe. In a more grown-up second season, John Cena's Peacemaker contemplates a fresh start of his own. At this stage of global superhero supremacy and pop culture, everyone should know where they stand on James Gunn. To call the writer-director divisive might be something of an understatement. Whether you take umbrage with his history of deeply weird and sometimes offensive tweets, which famously cost him his gig at Marvel, helming the Guardians of the Galaxy saga, or his juvenile, irreverent pen, he's definitely an acquired taste. But he's also now the steward of his own cinematic universe, a privilege bestowed after his ousting from Marvel Studios and a subsequent jump to its competitors at DC. Anyone with a passing interest in comic book movies knows that Gunn basically saved the dying DCEU with the Suicide Squad, then Peacemaker, which spun out John Cena's alt-right coded man-child into his own corner of the universe. The first season of Peacemaker brought us even deeper into the recesses of Gunn's depraved, wildly empathetic mind, boasting colorful comic book visuals and jokes that ran the gamut between blindsiding comedy and the lowest hanging fruit imaginable. It was, in other words, the filmmaker unleashed. With the family-friendly shackles of the Disney brand and the righteously indignant Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 in the rear view, Gunn was free to take his vision in new directions. Go ahead.
He puts the pathetic in empathetic.
Well, I'll tell you this, guys, as we read this, James Gunn has a job to do. And that job is to sell DC to boys. Now, seriously, his job is to sell action figures and pajamas and board games and tchotchkes to 7-year-olds to 13-year-olds. And then if you get a win with the other groups, that's great too. Superman was pushing the edge already. The stuff that is happening in Peacemaker, I got to say, listen, I'm not squeamish. I'm no prude. But I've read these articles before. I know what these people like. It's the same stuff that drove Marvel almost to the very end, and it may have crossed over into that territory completely. These are the same people who praised how brave and stunning Captain Marvel was and is. These are the same people who want you to believe that we need a female Indiana Jones, or we gotta get somebody out of Russia to play James Bond. Are there any brown-skinned lesbians in Russia that we can get to play James Bond? Find the two and cast them as fast as we can. These are the same people who do this. It's nonsense every single time. James Gunn should be selling to boys, not doing whatever it is that these folks want. It doesn't make money.
They're saying a more grown up second season. This show reads like a 13-year-old writing fan fiction of The Boys.
Oh my! I think you're being kind. I think you're being kind with that assessment. I'm sorry. We need to take this dude out and put him to task. James Gunn is not a good writer. He is not. He is an infantile. He's infantile. He's petulant, and frankly, he's lazy. This is not the James Gunn who wrote what was it called? Slither. This is an entirely different animal. And I'm so tired of hearing about his wonderful taste of music. James Gunn uses music for mental manipulation. He can't earn the actual emotional outcome he wants the scene to deliver. So he uses the music to mask his pitiful dialogue so that he can use a cheat sheet to get to the end result. If you don't get caught up in the music and actually listen to what's going on, you're going to be baffled. You're really going to think that a 13-year-old wrote this conversation. I don't know what's going on with Peacemaker, but I have no idea how this movie is supposed to be a direct follow-up to Superman. If I wanted to sit down and watch this show with my kids. Now, granted, season one.
You can't do it, Kevin.
But
you can't put your kids in front of this show.
There's a whole 7 minutes that can't be watched. And then, frankly, we got to be honest, too. This is superhero red meat content. So, yes, the target audience, unfortunately, for these people is straight males. Straight males do not want to have to watch another man's stuff flapping in the breeze for 7 bloody minutes.
Well, let's show what this is real quick. There may be people who are wondering, what are we talking about? And I'll just say this too. You know, you guys are exactly right. And I enjoyed, of course, Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2, 3 much less, but 1 and 2 are fantastic. And I'm starting to say maybe that was what James Gunn looks like when he's under Ike Perlmutter. I think it's fair to say that now, because this James Gunn goes back to the James Gunn who was canceled for tweets that he put out that were way, way too far. And then Chris Pratt basically saved his career by saying, you know what, everybody deserves some grace. So maybe James Gunn, maybe we shouldn't send him out and banish him. Well, now, I mean, listen, Nerdrotic is not prudish either. Nerdrotic is not living down on an Amish farm somewhere, right? Nerdrotic doesn't blush when an ankle is shown. Yet even Gary says, gather the kids. James Gunn made Superman available for digital rental so you can watch it before Peacemaker. See all your favorite DC characters like Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, and Max Lord, along with Peacemaker, who participates in illicit-fueled full frontal, everybody hop on in gratuitous physical experices. Folks, if you can read it, you can see it.
Was what we said, right?
That's right. Jonas J. Campbell puts it this way. He says, after what I'm hearing about Peacemaker 2, this is canceled, referring to him showing Superman to his kids. I'm not going to go through the effort of getting my kids interested in a cinematic universe if a majority of the content is going to be filthy. This is why Warner Brothers should be terrified. Because... Yeah, go ahead, guys.
I was saying, an important thing to point out here is that 2/3 of what has come out, or 2 out of 3 projects that have come out for this DC universe, have been not for kids, because people don't realize Creature Commandos came out because nobody watched it, but that was also very much not for kids.
And it was also right out the box, it immediately takes a swipe at the fandom. I don't understand what his obsession with this is, but he's supposed to be friends with the guy. He really seems to be taking it personally that people like the DCEU, because he attacks him right at the box with Creature Commandos. Then he makes a very jarring and unnecessary, and frankly feels mean-spirited retcon at the end of the season 1 recap, where he has the Justice Gang replace the Justice League. And let me take a second here to talk about Guy Gardner. Right, I love Guy. I love Green Lantern. I'm a DC guy. This Lantern show that's coming up. I know. This Lantern show that's coming out. I was reading an interview from oh gosh, what is his name? Why am I I'm so annoyed that I'm brain farting on names. What's Guy Gardner's real name?
Nathan Fillion.
Nathan Fillion says that he uses the F word more in this show than he's ever used it in the entirety of his life. Green Lantern is a foundational character for the DC pantheon. He is a member of the freaking Super Friends. He is lunchbox bait. You're taking a main character.
So is El Dorado.
Well, yeah, but you're giving him a filthy mouth and you're putting him in filthy situations, and so that does not give me much hope for this Lanterns TV show. I am part of the biggest issue that we all had with the DCEU is that you could not comfortably sit down and let your kids watch this. All people want is the ability to tap into the old school Reeves version Superman. Listen, how old is Lois and Clark? It's almost a 32, 33-year-old TV show.
And yet Dean Kane doesn't age.
And Dean Kane has not aged, right? People are still talking about Lois and Clark because of the subject matter that they chose to base the show off of, and it was rooted in classic values, family, and just being a good person. So, despite its budgetary issues, it's still a standard bearer show. To me, the assignment was very simple. Just give families something that they can sit down and enjoy that was free of the message. So at this point, just because Superman was not woke does not mean that it was good, nor does it mean that we should be giving this guy a pass, because he apparently is just pooping in the pool when no one's looking.
Well, I'm going to tell you guys something, and I'm going to just introduce this idea, and then I'm very interested in what everybody has to say. I think that perhaps what's happening here is that they're chasing Deadpool. But that's a big mistake. And the mistake is Deadpool existed before it became folded into Disney's MCU. It existed as its own thing. And Deadpool and Wolverine still exists as its own thing. It makes gentle nods to the broader Marvel universe, but it's not interconnected in some way that you got to watch it to find out what happens with the story. It is gratuitously, offensively, raunchy comedy that you can watch or not watch, but it doesn't pertain to the rest of the story of Marvel. So you can do that, because what you've done is you've taken it and you've siloed this very hard R-rated movie. You've siloed it in such a way that it can exist, but the kids don't have to watch it. Now, they might want to watch it, but they don't have to watch it to understand what's happening in the next movie. The problem with doing Peacemaker this way, this is the big flaw. First of all, it's coming out directly after your Superman start of the DCEU, okay? And if this is now, and Gunn came out and said, we gotta get Superman out of the theaters. I don't believe it for a second, by the way, but he said we gotta get out of the theaters because we gotta make sure that it's on digital, so you can go watch it on digital, so then you can go watch Peacemaker. Okay, if the 12-year-old kid that just went to go see Superman then says, I gotta see Peacemaker, that's a problem, because families don't differentiate between this stuff. Families don't have time to dive deep into how this stuff works. How this is going to play out is dad who went to take the kid to go see Superman and was like a little bit iffy because they said some stuff in Superman that was just a bit over the edge and they don't want to hear it at home. Dad comes in while Peacemaker's on, and suddenly somebody's wiener is waving in the wind with a bunch of other wieners. I'm going to say that because I think YouTube won't get us on wiener, and it's a funny word to say. Haha, how about that, Butters?
Yeah, I saw some wieners in it.
So there's wieners flapping everywhere, and there's stuff you should be doing. And Dad looks at it and says, turn it off. And when Dad says turn it off, it doesn't, that's it. That's it for DC. Because the dad and the mom, they have a talk later and they say, you won't believe what I just saw in the DC thing. We're done with that. And that's it.
I'm going to push back on one thing that you said, Pro. I don't think it was chasing Deadpool. I think it was chasing the boys. I think James Gunn is infatuated with the boys and wanted to do his own version of it because it really plays like the boys.
Sure,
where it's just gore for the sake of gore, and just all the exposed people for the sake of it. There was more pipe than a plumber's convention in this episode. It was just excessive.
Well, again, look at what he wanted to do originally. He wanted to introduce the Authority, and yes, the Authority laid the foundation for the boys to exist. But in a world where the boys has been out so long, it would have played poorly. It would have looked like they were ripping them off. But his priorities are off. You wanted to bring in an obscure team. They got folded in the greater universe later. Before you introduce the Justice League, what is going on?
This is like taking a boys brand. It's for 7-year-old boys, 8-year-old boys, 12-year-old boys, and we know that, right? Because you put Superman on cereal. We know that, right? Because you buy Superman action figures in the aisle. This is taking a boy brand and saying, let's turn it into Game of Thrones. And there's nothing wrong with Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is great. But Game of Thrones doesn't sell boy action figures for Christmas. And that's what James Gunn's job is to do, Lauren.
That's true. Sorry.
Go ahead, Martin. Go ahead.
I don't think James Gunn is chasing anybody else. This is the same James Gunn that cut his teeth at Troma. It's the same guy that made Slither. It's the same guy that made Super as his first superhero movie. This is just who he is.
I was actually going to make almost the same point. I disagree with you that he's chasing anybody. What I see of Gunn is that I actually kind of disagree on the dialogue part of him, because I think that Guardians of the Galaxy is an excellent movie that has some real heartfelt moments, but it's the most sincere movie that Gunn has made, and he has a real problem with sincerity. You can see that in Superman. Every time he has a sincere emotional moment, he has to undercut it with humor. There's something about sincerity normally that makes him uncomfortable. And the one thing that I can say that I disliked quite a bit about Superman is the very end scene when he brings in Supergirl. Now, that's where I think you're seeing James Gunn bleed through, and that's where you're starting to see what he's doing in Peacemaker. Now, I think the reason he might be doing that for Supergirl is because he's got an arc planned for her. I hope that's what he's planning to do, is to show that she's a different person by the end of her movie than she is at the end of Superman. But based on what I'm hearing about Peacemaker, I just don't know if this guy can actually rein in his worst instincts. The problem is that he's a little bit like a 13-year-old boy who's been given carte blanche to do whatever he wants, and he has no ability to govern his more juvenile impulses.
Well, it's juvenile, all right. Lauren, there's a review that Marvin has done. Can we get that up on the screen, and we'll go through that and see what Marvin had to say?
Yeah, actually, I was going to ask whether or not you just wanted to read this, Marvin, as I scroll through it, because you wrote it.
I could if you want me to. Yeah.
Yeah, give me just
I'll give you the proper inflection.
There we go.
So, Peacemaker Season 2 premiere proves DCU is a James Gunn vanity project. And there you see the opening credits sequence that is vastly inferior to the Season 1 one, which I actually liked. But I digress. So James Gunn's much-hyped Peacemaker Season 2 premiere has finally arrived, and I sincerely wish that it hadn't, and that I didn't have to review it. What unspools in the first episode is a chaotic, vulgar, self-indulgent disaster that makes even Gunn's shaky Superman reboot look like a cinematic triumph by comparison. I enjoyed much of the first season. I like John Cena, but this episode, it's amateurish, infantile dreck with almost nothing redeemable. From Snyderverse to Gunnverse, but only for his friends. The first season of Peacemaker was set in the Snyderverse, the DCEU of Henry Cavill's Superman, Ben Affleck's Batman, and Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. Then Gunn rebooted everything, casting Cavill aside and promising fans a fresh start. But here's the catch. The entire cast of Peacemaker, including Gunn's wife, Jennifer Holland, got grandfathered into the shiny new DCU. And so what fans get is a recap that clumsily rewrites history, swapping Snyder's Justice League for Gunn's Justice Gang and recasting Superman and Supergirl in the Season 1 finale flashback with a really bad green screen cameo from Green Lantern and Hawkgirl. The hoops jumped here aren't for story coherence. They're for keeping James Gunn's inner circle on the payroll. And of course, Gunn and DC rushed Superman, a family movie made for kids, digital platforms, so people could watch it before tuning into Peacemaker Season 2, directly drawing a connection between them. That decision is nothing short of irresponsible. The family-friendly tone of Superman has no connection whatsoever to the grotesque carnival profanity and exposure in Peacemaker.
And pause right there. I want to add something, because I know some people are going to say, you guys are prudes. This is, come on, guys, you can handle this kind of thing. Here's my answer to that. Imagine if in Marvel, if everybody I think knows you had to see Captain America Civil War to understand the Infinity War and Endgame, right? You had to go see Captain America Civil War. Well, what if Captain America Civil War featured illicit substance use and gratuitous nakedness with men and women and all of that? What would have happened to Marvel? And yet this is what James Gunn is doing straight out of the gate with DC. Warner Brothers needs to be worried at this point, because if that's what you want, that's fine. But the return on investment will not be fine. The money they're spending on DC, when you do this kind of content, the lunch boxes are gone, the backpacks are gone, the action figures are gone. Like, that's what will happen if you do this. And you can have like one misstep with Peacemaker, I guess. But if this is the Supergirl movie, if it comes out and it's like this, it's over.
Well, remember that awesome toy commercial they did for Superman? Where it was like, oh, the kaiju's attacking Metropolis. Here comes Superman and the Justice Gang. Like, the Justice Gang now are in this having that ridiculous conversation with James Gunn's talentless brother in that stupid audition scene that exists for no other reason than to put James Gunn's talentless brother into this show. It's insane because it's that's the thing. Like, I love Game of Thrones, or I love the most of Game of Thrones except for the ending. But so it's not that we don't like this content, but there's a place for it, and it's not in a superhero universe where you have connected directly to a family friendly property.
That's it. Superman needs to be
Oswald Penitentiary.
Go ahead, Eric.
No, I was saying, it belongs in Oswald Penitentiary.
Yeah, well, listen, Bruce Wayne is a playboy. You don't show him in certain ways being the playboy. You tell it, you allude to it. You don't have Bruce with 3 other dudes and 2 women, getting it on screen. Why don't you do that? Well, because everything to do, like $1 billion to $5 billion worth of merchandise just went down the drain.
Yep, this is the short-sightedness is incredible here. I honestly expected a little bit more from Peter Safran to kind of rein in James Gunn a little bit here, but I feel like everybody's just kind of asleep at the wheel. And they need to be honest about why this thing hit digital so fast. They thought that Fantastic Four was going to eat Superman's lunch, and that they could have recouped money by releasing it on digital. This was we want to give you this great gift. No, you didn't ever think that you would have been in the position to steal all the oxygen away from Marvel and be the talking point of the summer. And because they got so much attention, there should have been a strategy change here. Superman cannot be in a situation where he is tied to something that frankly has hypersexuality and has illicit, substance abuse. That isn't the brand. You're destroying the character. You're creating a nasty little fog that will spill over. And this Supergirl run, they're using Tom King's run here. You be ready to go on a ride that you're going to not really be too crazy about, because she's not going to be very likable the majority of this movie.
But Warner Brothers here may be paying off on what Marvel always said they were going to do, which is to create a universe where each of their characters has their own style of movie. Marvel said they'd do it. They never really paid off on that.
Mm-hmm.
Warner Brothers is, and I'm not happy with what they're doing, but they are doing it.
Yeah. Listen, I think it's fine, but you haven't actually reestablished a universe yet. Like again, Deadpool worked. Wolverine and Deadpool work because Wolverine and Deadpool, when they are separate from the X-Men, are R-rated characters. So you can pull them out, and they can do whatever they want to do over here. But when they're with the group, they conform to the tone of the book. DC does not work like that. If you are a spicier character, you're generally all the way over here, and everybody else is over here, with the exception of like the Red Hood character. There aren't many that kind of can bounce back and forth, and even then he doesn't. It's not a language thing.
Well, there's another thing too, Kevin. Deadpool and Wolverine for Disney Marvel. That's like 17 years of we knew what Marvel was, and then there's this standalone thing. This is the second big thing. This is the thing right after Superman.
Yep.
Like, this is, you're defining what this brand is under James Gunn.
Yep.
And that's a fatal flaw, because you don't have 17 years of the audience understanding what is this. Now they've heard, okay, well, we're going to watch Superman digitally, and then we're going to watch Peacemaker because James Gunn says this all ties in. And they watch the first episode, they say, and I'll never watch this again. Honey, we're not going to go see Superman 2. The kids can't go see it. I'm sorry, it's too much. That's the problem.
It's unearned. It's too fast. And again, no one knows what this brand is yet. So now there's mass confusion.
Not only, by the way, is following Superman a family-friendly thing. Look who the star is: John Cena, the guy who has been a hero to little kids for years and still
and
is.
China.
I mean, oh yes, and China. It's kind of funny because John Cena was in that that infamous scene there with all of the exposure, and that China apology is still the gayest thing he's ever done.
That's a good joke, Marvin. That's a good one.
Thank you. I've been waiting on that one.
So, Eric, you didn't really get in here a whole lot. Do you have any particular thoughts about this?
I think he's frozen.
He's deep
Yeah,
in-
I
he's
think we
deep in
lost
thought.
him again.
What is it now? But I would like to congratulate Eric because he has tested out AOL's final days of dial-up modems, and well, we can see what that era of the internet looked like. Eric, we knew you well.
Yep. Well, guys, unless you guys had anything else you wanted to say about Peacemaker, we do have some super chats that I should probably get to. Did you have any final thoughts that you wanted to relate before we get there?
I have one more. We all thought that this was going to be. We knew it was a multiverse story, and I think we all thought it was going to be a multiverse story because it was going to be Peacemaker coming from the Snyderverse into the DCU. But they put him in the DCU from Jump Street, which means that they told a multiverse story when they didn't have to. And if there's one thing people are sick and tired of, to the point where Deadpool made meta jokes about it, it's multiverse stories right now. I can't believe he wrote a multiverse story.
I do have this question because Peacemaker is in the Superman movie. He's being interviewed by Michael Ian Black,
Yep.
right?
Hmm?
Is that the Peacemaker we see in the show? Or I
Yes.
won't see it, but
It is.
so it's
So basically, everything that happened in Peacemaker season 1 in the Snyderverse happened in the DCU, except it was the Justice Gang instead of the Justice League who showed up at the end.
Yes, Martin, you're correct in going, what was the point of all of this then?
yeah.
Yes.
Because I kind of thought when I heard it was going to be a multiverse story, maybe he was going to come into the new universe and do away with his other self and take his place.
Right.
That
Well,
would be
and
very
he
James
is
Gunn.
doing that, but with a completely different universe. And because the problem was you couldn't bring him from the Snyderverse to the DCU and not have a valid way to bring over James Gunn's wife and all of his friends. And they all had to still be in the show.
Well, let's try to get Eric in. Eric, your thoughts on what's happening with DC and James Gunn, and that he's already this quickly getting into hard R kind of stuff for what is traditionally a kids brand.
Well, the thing that's really odd with it is he announced that there's going to be a Peacemaker Fortnite skin coming out, and last I checked, I play it almost daily. That's a kids game.
Yeah.
Are you saying that the inflatable that the Peacemaker guy is going to ride in might not be the kind kids should be seen as they float down into what was formerly Flush Factory?
Well, nicely done. Good reference with the Flush Factory. But no, what I think's going to end up happening is they're going to release the stupid dance from the theme song. They're going to rake in a ton of cash from that, plus the skin. They already have a John Cena skin in the game, so it's not like his license or likeness is not licensed to the Fortnite brand. You can play around with a lot of that different stuff, but it's now in Fortnite too. So the kids that are playing the game are like, well, I can just watch that. Now, granted, yeah, Deadpool was in the game a little while back. And, it's not like it's a skin that repeats around and around because you can purchase it. It was a battle pass skin, things of that nature. But the kids jumping in because it's something readily available. And if it becomes the hot seller, and Fortnite's done this in the past couple weeks, where they list every night what the top selling things for that day are. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. And, I honestly have no access to watch Peacemaker, so I have not seen it. But Kevin told me earlier, and I was like, wait a second, which is why I made the Oz reference earlier. Can't be having stuff flopping around.
The only thing that's missing, Eric?
What's
the
that?
only thing missing, I believe, is a Cracker Barrel tie-in. We need a sausage and potatoes meal for Peacemaker now at the rebranded Cracker Barrel stores all across America.
Floral, it's time for you to walk the plank.
What? Why?
Because you haven't subscribed to WDW Pro yet. Nor bookmark thatparkplace.com on your web browser to get great articles from great contributors.
What?